Okay, so at minus 54 now, it does the electric power up, and I'm not really sure what this consists of. I think it might just be the battery, which is here. It's already on, and the ground power is established. The rest, that doesn't look like it's touching a lot of other buttons. So what I'll do is I'll set the ADI room myself, arm the emergency exit lights, and that's pretty much it. Just clear the ICAS at the moment. Looking at the status, everything's good. What I've done today as well is that the APU is kaput, is US, so it's MEL'd. We can fly without the APU working, it's no problem. We're just gonna need to do a air pneumatic start and then crossbleed the start. So we'll look at that for the start. The APU also should come up on the status page there, but for some reason it's not coming up. So if I start it, I'm sure it's gonna come up, but it might come up with other problems. So maybe that's what I needed to do for the APU message to come on the status. So actually, maybe I can try to do it, and then I'll shut it down. Anyway, in the meantime, I'll get started like always. So I'll send the first officer for the walk around.
I'm out for the walk around.
No problem. So we'll go in the FMC. I say the APU is now showing on the status. Yeah, so has to actually fail it once to then okay. So you can see the APU start system is in the status message, and if we bring the recall, it's actually not showing anymore. But because it's in the status message, then you can't really have a fault like this. TCAS here is normal because the TCAS is off, but APU start system shouldn't show in the status, so the aircraft can be dispatched with the APU not working, basically. So as I said, we'll assume it's totally kaput, it's totally US, so it doesn't provide any pneumatic air, it doesn't provide any bleed air to the aircraft, so we can't start the engines with the APU. We need the ground air cart, and also the electrical component of the APU also is not working. So that's that. Pre-flight checklist.
Pre-flight checklist. Oxygen.
Tested 100%.
Tested 100%. Flight instruments.
Heading 120, altimeter 1014.
Heading 120, altimeter 1014.
Hello, Smilos, how you doing?
Pre-flight checklist complete.
Yeah, slowly from time to time, you know, a little appearance here, like if I can, maybe, as I said, like maybe once a week if I can. Right, so that's sorted out pretty much. As I said, the boarding is now completed. That's good news. So we'll look actually at accelerating the timeline again.
Hi guys, here's the load sheet for you. Have a safe flight.
Thanks. So, zero fuel weight from the flight plan once again is 224.4. I've got 224.4. Gives us a gross weight of 246.3 with 21.9 tons of fuel, which is what we need. That's correct. The assumed temperature is 72. according to Mr. Boeing. The engine acceleration height is 1000 and will accelerate at 3000, reduce the thrust at 1000. Flaps is 5. It's a long runway, relatively low weight. CG today is as a forward CG, so that's calculated it on. And then the speeds 158, that's what Mr. Boeing gave me, and that's what PMDG is giving me. Rotate is 160, so once again it's not too far off. And V2 164, and it should be 163 once again according to Mr. Boeing. VR30 is 148, which checks. 240 is all we're gonna go to, and we're recommending as well here 240, so it's interesting. We'll see maybe once it's in the air why I recommend. So the V2 is 163. LNAV, VNAV, the track is actually wrong because we're going on 1 to right. So it's 119 and the opposite, and 4000 feet is still good. Cool. Cool. Excellent. So what I'm gonna do to prevent any trouble with the ground power and everything is I'm just gonna close the doors myself and do it a little bit differently today. So we'll go to the menu, go to FS actions, doors, and close the doors. And then we'll arm the others as well. So I remind you that in the real aircraft, on the center FMC there, you don't get you know, the menu and the options like I have here. This is like purely a simulator thing. What we have is something similar to the cabin interphone here, and of course the center FMC can be used as a backup for one of the other two FMCs. It's got exactly the same function, but it's primarily used as the cabin interphone as is here at the moment. Right, let's accelerate this dude here.
Alright guys, everyone's seated, we're all buttoned up and ready to go in the back.
Thanks.
If you need anything, just let me know.
So once again, as I said, if you look at the status page here, the APU is not working today, so it's MEL'd. We can go without the APU working. When I say it's MEL'd, and means that the MEL kind of defines the equipment in the aircraft that can be US, and we can still fly the aircraft safely without the required equipment there. So so from that point of view, it's good today. We can go. Normally we use the APU to start the engines. The APU provide bleed air that help with the engine start. Today, because we don't have that, we're gonna have to connect the ground air cart. So we'll go to FS actions again, ground connections, and we'll connect the air start unit. So that way we've got bleed air provided by the air start unit that will help us start one engine on stand. Now I want to show you actually is we don't really do that out of memory. We use the supplementary procedure. So here I'll use the FCOM volume 1 provided with the 777, well, the PMDG 777. As you know, the manuals are included with the simulator, and you've got like the FCOM. There's version volume 1 and volume 2. Volume 1 is more like about the procedures. volume 2 is more like description of the systems. And here we have it. So that's in supplementary and procedure 7.2. And yeah, basically when we do a air start unit, when we do a air start with the ground air cart, as you can see down here, engine, ground, pneumatic start. So we'll use the air start unit, and basically with the unit bring in the bleed air that the APU is supposed to provide, but because the APU is not working, then we have to find an alternative source. So here we are. So all we have to do basically is to make sure the duct pressure is 25 psi or more, and then accomplish a normal engine start on stand. Anyway, here we are. Checklist is done. We're good to go. The beacon is on. That was the last item. It didn't undo the hydraulic pumps. No, everything is as it's supposed to be good. Alright, so for... Oops. I heard some switching in the background, but there's nothing there. Cool. Excellent. So as I said, you're looking for the duct pressure, and you can see at the moment it's showing 43 and 44 there on each side. So the duct pressure was showing in the supplementary procedure minimum of 25 psi. So we've got the 25 psi, no problem. So we can start the engine. Start sequence is 2 then 1.
Check.
Start the right engine.
Starting right. Oil pressure.
So yeah, we start one engine on stand, and then we'll push the aircraft. We'll see how it works out, and then start the second engine once the start is done. During the start, the bleed air basically had some sort of power to the engine to help, you know, the N1, I think, rotate, and kind of like provides the initial kind of start, you know, and then when the fuel comes on, everything, then it's more like a kind of more like chemical thing. But initially the bleed air helps with the rotation of the N1, and yeah, if that makes sense. It kind of helps the engine turn initially. Right, so also if you've noticed, we still had the primary external power, because we need to that's why we need to start one engine on stand. If we don't keep the ground power, then we're gonna lose all the electricity. So we need to start one engine on stand with the ground electrics plugged in, and then once the first engine is started, then you disconnect both the air start unit and the ground power. So I'm gonna disconnect the ground power. Now that one engine is turning, provides electricity to the whole aircraft. If we look at the synoptic here, you can see that the right engine there is providing electricity to the whole system. So that's good. So we can disconnect the ground power. Is now disconnected, and we can also disconnect the air unit, and actually all, if the wheel chocks actually disconnect everything. So once you remove the wheel chocks, then everything is disconnected. So that's quite good. Get back to the legs page, and now let's see if we call. Yeah, GSX doesn't allow. You see, that's gonna be the funky thing. So I'm not really gonna be able to do a proper push unless I try with PMDG, because I think you can do it as well. Hold on. Sorry, it's a little bit more complicated today, but just wanted to demonstrate the crossbleed start on stand. It's something that we don't really do very often because the APU, even if it breaks down, then usually it's fixed quite quickly. It's not really something that we do on a regular basis, so it's good for me as well to kind of practice this thing. Ground connections, pushback. Oh, here it is. Distance in feet. Let's maybe try meters. I don't have a clue what the distance need to be. Turn the nose to the left, maybe. 90 degrees, I imagine. Let's see how it works.
And ground cockpit.
Go ahead, Captain.
We're all set to go up here. We've been cleared to push and start at your discretion.
Roger that, ready for push. Power and air are clear, doors closed. We are ready for pushback. Please parking brake, please.
Okay, parking brake is off, cleared to push.
If we look outside, there's nothing really connected to the aircraft, so it's good.
Brakes off, here we go.
So let's see how he's gonna push. I was just ready to get the aircraft away from the gate because I didn't really want to taxi like through the scenery and everything, so hopefully it's gonna get us in a suitable position. It doesn't have to be perfect like JSX will do, but at least put us in a decent position to taxi out. Of course there's a vehicle like driving just behind the aircraft like always. It doesn't look too bad actually. It's turning in the right direction, and it looks like it's gonna put us in a suitable position. Doesn't have to be exactly on the line. I'll be happy with a random position on the taxiway or near the taxiway, but at least it's doing a good thing. So yeah, if we don't have GSX and you want to push, then you can use the push function in PMDG itself. So that's quite good. Phil, that will be the standard reply for your question. I hope it's not gonna put me into the building there now. Perfect. Actually, it's working out alright. It's not gonna be ideal, but so yeah, you would wait as well for the push to be complete before you do the second start. ATC is usually quite happy for us to start one engine at the gate, but they're not really keen to do the two engines at the gate. To start the second engine during the push is maybe not a great idea, because I'll show you in the supplementary procedure, you actually have to add a little bit of thrust, so it's maybe a good idea to wait for the push to be complete, set the parking brake, and then do the crossbleed start once the push is complete. So while we finish the push, I'll show you the supplementary procedure for the engine crossbleed start. So here we are. So the APU must be shut down, or the APU bleed switch must be turned off. Okay, the APU is off and is not working. Verify that the area behind the airplane is clear of equipment and personnel prior to increase thrust on operating engine. So that's a good thing as well. You know, to be on the taxiway, you can slightly increase the thrust instead of doing it at the gate. When we start the engine at the gate with the ground pneumatic start, then as you can see, you don't need to add any thrust. It's all like a normal start. So let's do that. So the thrust lever operating engine we advance. Okay, so we're gonna do that. So advance the thrust. Says 5% above idle N2. So idle is 71, but bring it to 76. Something like that. That's it. And we've got 25 psi minimum duct pressure. So if we go back to the simulator once again, you can see the duct pressure is 31, so that's good. And then let's accomplish normal engine start, so we'll do that. Let's see if Faster Crew can do it. Start the left engine.
Starting left. Oil pressure.
So yeah, the N2 increases, the oil pressure has increased, the N1 is increasing, and like a raise around 32-33%. N2 the fuel is gonna come in, and the rest of the engine start is taking place. Oh, flywheel, cool. I hope you enjoyed the channel. It's good. Thank you very much. Alright, and the start is good, so we can now reduce the thrust back to idle. And there's nothing else we need to do. For some reason, this bad boy is not staying on RTO, that's good. And let's have a look, takeoff flaps, okay. Flaps 5.
Flaps 5.
So that's the prompt for the before taxi flow. So the APU was off, but in normal conditions it will go from on to off. Check the anti-ice, check the recall, and that's pretty much it. It's giving me the flight control display to check the flight controls. So the flight controls, actually the control column there doesn't move because it's reduced, but you can see that the flight controls on the flight control synaptic are moving. Here we are. If and reduce or increase the size of the control column, then it does move. And actually what we check is like that the control column is full movements and unrestricted, you know, so that's and you can see the rudders move. Cool, that's good. So this time we don't need to worry about GSX and we can get cracking. Before taxi checklist.
Before taxi checklist. Anti-ice. Auto. Recall. Checked. Flight controls. Ground
Checked.
equipment.
Clear.
Before taxi checklist complete.
Clear left.
Clear right.
So like always, with the ground friction here, I need to add at least 27% N1 to get this thing moving, and it's only 250 tons. It's below the max landing weight, and it doesn't want to move, and really aircraft at this weight, as soon as you release the parking brake, will start moving on its own with the engines running at idle. So yeah, it's interesting. Right, so here we'll go. Let me go back to the Aivlasoft EFB, go back to the ground. We'll go here on Juliet 2, then take the second left on Kilo, and then taxi to Kilo 5 there for departure. That's that's what we'll try to do. And I'm taxiing as I'm showing you the EFB. The EFB I find is amazing, as I've said before. It uses the scenery you have in the sim to kind of depict the ground chart. So it's in a sense more accurate, because at least what's on the chart there is what you have in the sim, like real world charts, because the airports are evolving all the time. The layout you have on the chart
The cabin is ready.
Might not be what you have in the simulator, so
cabin crew, take your seats.
Actually, this is maybe a little bit better. Anyway, here we are. So that was the first left, so we'll go on the second left. Before takeoff checklist.
Before takeoff checklist. Before takeoff checklist complete.
And the wind is now more or less crosswind, even maybe now a tailwind, but depends on the wind variation as well. It's okay. It's just gonna show you. Actually, the departure will be nice, because I believe we're gonna fly a little bit over the place, so it's good. I always find I'm a little bit stuck for time, because it takes a while to get this thing set up. And anyway, it's all doing good for the moment. And this one is Kilo 5. Cool. Runway entry procedure.
Check.
Approaching 1, 2, right.
That's correct, it's 1, 2 right.
On runway 1, 2, right.
Takeoff. Takeoff.
Check.
Thrust ref.
Thrust set. Check. $80 knots.
Hold.
Check.
V1.
Rotate. Positive climb.
Gear up. Gear up.
Gear up.
L9.
400 feet.
Thrust ref.
Check.
V9 speed. V9 speed.
Check. Climb.
Here we are. Taking off towards, well, inland, in an inland direction. I'll put the autopilot just to kind of get a bit of spare capacity. Look outside. Yoo-hoo! The scenery is good. They've done an excellent job on the scenery there, so it's really good.
1,000 feet to level off.
We'll keep climbing then. Oops. All the way to 240. Flaps 1.
Speed check. Flaps 1.
I will keep the speed in the turn here. I think there's the speed limit to 20 knots. So I'll keep that going. The green, as I said before, here is obviously a bit of a mismatch, but otherwise, yeah, it's not too bad. It's climbing like a rocket. The tracking on the departure is not too bad here actually today. So I think until the Delta Bravo 451 waypoint, and then it's gonna accelerate. I think the speed limit here is more to keep the turn in check, rather than just put a limit for the sake of it. Flaps up.
Speed check. Flaps up.
After takeoff checklist.
After takeoff checklist. After takeoff checklist complete.
Very good, very good. Right, let's have a look outside. I swear the view on the scenery is impressive. So yeah, they've done an amazing job on the scenery, because the scenery is not only the airport itself, which is down here, but it's also all the city, all the surroundings. So yeah, it's amazing. It's quite thorough, I would say. Got the main buildings as well, the big tower here, a famous hotel down here as well. So yeah, amazing job on the scenery.
10,000 feet.
Seatbelt sign auto.
Seatbelt signs auto.
Yeah, here we are, climbing away. Transition altitude, altimeters reset standard.
Standard set.
Yeah, standard is set 3 times. In the standby altimeter as well, it needs to come back to standard. Although we don't really refer to that, and the autopilot doesn't really work with the standby altimeter, but I guess it's for like to harmonize or synchronize the 3 altimeters, then the standby altimeter goes back to standard also. But as I said, the autoflight system doesn't really rely on the standby altimeter for the altitude keeping. That's the coastline. A little bit of cloud, not too much today. Beautiful winter day. On the other side as well. Already a little bit far. Cool. So yeah, for the moment it's only 50 knots of wind. I'll take a sample of wind and we'll see what the computer is recommending. 240 is quite low for like I think it was 500 miles on the route itself. But as I said in the introduction, if the winds are forecast to be very strong at the usual cruising levels like 3.2, 3.4, 3.60, then in a sense it's understandable that the flight planning software went for a lower level, because at least you kind of stay clear of the strong winds, and on the ground speed you'll be much faster than if you are 360 with 150 knots of headwind. So yeah, we're not even at like 20,000 feet and we've got already 60 knots of wind, so we'll see how that goes. I'll try to take a sample of winds in the lakes page, you know, in the route data there, and we'll see what it gives us. We're approaching 1,000 feet to level off, so I'll start reducing the vertical speed, using a vertical speed here. So in the simulator then the vertical speed commanded actually is achieved quite quickly, and the real aircraft, because it's such a big aircraft, there's a little bit more inertia, so very often that's a personal thing, is not written anywhere. I kind of start reducing the vertical speed maybe when there's
1,000 feet to level off.
about like 1,500 feet to go, and if the rate of climb is quite high, if it's already 2,500 feet per minute or something like that, it's gonna take a little bit of time for the vertical speed that is commanded to kind of take effect, and you can feel the inertia of the aircraft. It kind of slowly balloons to then reach the commanded vertical speed. So it's there's a little bit more inertia in the real aircraft than here in the simulation. The simulation kind of reacts a little bit more quickly to the vertical speed command. If that makes sense, you know, I'm trying to kind of explain, but yeah. But you can well imagine that a large aircraft like this takes a little bit of time to react to the input. Alright, and we have alt. VNAV path.
Check.
So yeah, so once again, anytime there's a FMA change here, you know, in the flight mode annunciator or flight mode annunciation, you kind of call it out, just to be aware of what the autopilot is doing, really. Right, so 24,000 feet, and you can see there's already 78 knots of wind. The ground speed is not too bad. Actually, if you look also at the true airspeed, the TAS there 464 is already quite high. At 360, for example, you would maybe get up to, depending on the, of course, on the speed, but you would get up to maybe, I don't know, 490, sometimes 500, if the Mach number is a little bit high, if it's maybe decimal 84 or decimal 85. So that will give you, let's say, an extra 30 knots of true airspeed. But if the wind is more than doubled, then let's say will be like 490 minus 150, 160 of wind. Your ground speed would only be 340. At the moment we have like almost 400. So it does make sense to kind of stay low level and stay below the wind, even though it's maybe not like a very efficient level from a theoretical point of view, but in these circumstances it makes more sense.